Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Fascinating week 3 matchup. Texas A&M heading on the road to play the Florida Gators, and I'll just say this: what seems like kind of a must-win matchup for both of these programs in the scope of 2024. And you got some really fun storylines here, right? DJ Lagway, five-star quarterback, just finished up the film of DJ Lagway, about as impressive as you'll see a true freshman play in their first career start. Now, I think the storyline heading in is you look at Texas A&M. This is one of the best pass rushes that you see in the country coming into Gainesville with potentially a freshman quarterback starting, with an offensive line that, for lack of better terms, really has struggled in pass protection to start the season. That's kind of where the matchup is for this football game. Want to get into a couple of different storylines. One, what is the quarterback situation going to be for this Florida program? I'll give you guys some of my thoughts on that. And of course, picks, predictions at the end of the episode as well. Now, before we get into it, as always, let it fly in the comments section. 3.5 point spread, Texas A&M road favorites in Gainesville. A lot of different ways that you could see this football game. Would love to hear from you guys in the comments section. Let it fly, whether you agree, whether you disagree with me. That's the best part about doing this. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. And without further ado, let's get into this one. I want to start with this Florida offense going up against Texas A&M's defense, and I'm going to ask the Florida fans, all right, Graham Mertz, it sounds like he's going to be ready to rock and roll for this football game. Who do you want to see at quarterback if you're a Florida fan? I think there's a couple of different ways of looking at this. Now, me personally, as a college football fan, I want to see DJ Lagway. That kid is very fun to watch sling the pill. Obviously, a phenomenal athlete as well. Now, you can't really argue that he looked phenomenal. He looks ready to be a starter in the SEC. I don't think you can argue that. My only caveat to that conversation is if you don't feel comfortable with your offensive line blocking up Texas A&M, do you want to throw your true freshman future, for lack of a better term, star quarterback out there against Texas A&M in that kind of pass rush? That's probably the conversation that Billy Napier and this Florida staff need to have. Now, my personal way of thinking this, what quarterback gives you the best ability to win this football game? I do think it's DJ Lagway because, again, from what you've seen from Florida when they go up against, real good pass rush units like the Miami Hurricanes week 1, they just can't block them up. And you look at this Texas A&M pass rush, I think it's just as good, if not better, than what you saw against the Miami Hurricanes. You want a quarterback that can get outside the pocket, that is going to be able to extend plays, put pressure on the opposing pass rush in terms of the mobility and what they can do getting outside the pocket. We all know that's not Graham Mertz's game. So what quarterback gives you the best ability to win this football game? I really do think it's DJ Lagway in terms of what he can do with his legs. You saw Riley Leonard give Texas A&M some struggles with his athleticism week 1 when Texas A&M played Notre Dame. So that's kind of my personal take is I'd like to see DJ Lagway out there. One, because he's really fun, but more importantly, I do think he is the quarterback in this football game that gives you the best chance to win this game. Now, a couple of keys for Florida. One, you got to hit the explosive play. Now, we talked about this for Texas A&M. They've done a really good job kind of shoring that up since Mike Elko has taken over. But at the end of the day, it is still a relatively new Texas A&M secondary. There's a lot of new faces that they kind of rotate in and out in that back end. And if you're Florida, you just had your quarterback go 18 to 25 for 456 yards and average depth to target of 13.3. It is very clear what one of the best assets DJ Lagway brings to the table is, and that's the deep ball. And you have wide receivers, whether it be Tremere Dike, whether it be Elijah Badger, that can work vertically down the field. So if you're Florida, I don't necessarily know if you're going to be all that consistent moving the football 10, 12 plays, 80 yards, and scoring a touchdown. It's a hell of a lot easier to go score an 80-yard touchdown like we saw from DJ Lagway Saturday in his first career start. So I think for Florida, you're looking to hit the explosive play on a secondary that might still be working through some communication issues. I think secondly, you got to run the football. And I'm not saying you have to run the football for 250 yards, although we did see Notre Dame come into College Station, run the ball for 200 yards in week 1. This Texas A&M front seven, I still think is hard to run the football on. Why you need to run the football is I don't think you want to deal with this pass rush 40 to 50 times a game. And I don't think you want your freshman quarterback having to throw 50 times a game either. And so even if you're not necessarily, chunking them up on the ground, hitting 10 plus yard carries kind of consistently, I do think you need to lean on Montrell Johnson in terms of the run game, just keeping this Texas A&M pass rush, for lack of better terms, at bay. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for Florida on the offensive side of the football, and obviously protecting DJ Lagway. And I think Florida fans probably agree with this. It's not like we have a ton of confidence in this Florida Gators offensive line. That is one of the most frustrating aspects of the Billy Napier tenure, is he kind of was brought in partly because what he's done with offensive lines, and it just hasn't worked out that way for Florida and Billy Napier. Now, if you're Texas A&M, one, you are trying to get after the passer. You're trying to, whether it's DJ Lagway, whether it's Graham Mertz, you're trying to smother them up front, right? This is a Florida Gators offensive line that significantly struggles in pass pro. But if DJ Lagway is at quarterback, you have to be really disciplined in terms of, hey, we want to get after DJ Lagway. We want to affect the passer. We want to create negative plays. But we also don't want DJ Lagway to get outside the pocket and extend plays, because one, that's where he's most comfortable at. Can throw from all sorts of different arm angles, some crazy arm talent in terms of what he can do on the run. More importantly, he's also a phenomenal athlete and will hurt you. And you saw Riley Leonard in some key moments in that football game get outside the pocket, extend plays, and pick up first downs with his legs. So if you're Texas A&M, it's kind of that blend in terms of, hey, we want to get after DJ Lagway or Graham Mertz, but we also want to keep quarterback like DJ Lagway in the pocket. That's kind of why I lean DJ Lagway to start, because I think he's better suited to extend plays and deal with the pass rush that Texas A&M brings. Now, flipping sides to this Texas A&M offense, Connor Wigman, obviously extremely frustrating performance against Notre Dame. I was very critical of what Connor Wigman brought to the table there. McNeese State, a little bit of a rebound. Didn't ask him to do too much. From what I got of watching back that McNeese State game and Connor Wigman, get this kid in a rhythm. It never seemed that he was very comfortable in the Texas A&M offense against Notre Dame week one. It was really choppy. There wasn't much rhythm. When Connor Wigman's in rhythm and he's confident throwing the football, you see the 5-star arm talent. Like, this is a guy who can really rip it to every single blade of grass on the football field. If you're Colin Klein, like, let's get that quick game going. Let's give Connor Wigman for, kind of some layups. Give him some easy passes. Let him build some confidence. But on the flip side, also, you want to get your playmakers out in space. What's Florida's biggest struggle on defense right now? I would argue it's tackling in the secondary. They got some new faces. They got some young faces. You go back to Florida throughout the first 2 weeks, they've given up over 300 yards purely after the catch in the passing attack. If you're Texas A&M, you're asking Coach Colin Klein to go back to his Kansas State days where, he was really, really good at getting the football out quickly to tight ends, to running backs, to wide receivers in those short intermediate route concepts, and letting those wide receivers go to work. I think if you're Texas A&M, you're not exactly trying to think of the best way to phrase this. You're not exactly in love with what this passing attack has been. You're not exactly in love with what Connor Wigman has done as a passer, but more importantly, I don't think you're exactly in love with what your pass catchers have looked like throughout the first 2 weeks. I don't know if there are legitimate difference makers in this wide receiver room. And so if you're Colin Klein, you have to play to what your strengths are. And that is, you got some guys who, when they have the football in their hands, they can do some work. So that's one where Florida has struggled the most early in the season. For Texas A&M, that's probably playing into kind of your skill set. And also, I think you have question marks about pass protection on the offensive line. And so the quick game, yards after the catch, that's probably the biggest key for Texas A&M. And if you're Florida, I think you're bringing some pressure. You look at Connor Wigman, the numbers so far, again, small sample size, only 2 football games. Connor Wigman is significantly worse as a passer when he is blitzed. He's not necessarily the best at getting the football out quickly. He's not necessarily the best at making the right decisions. You look at Coach Roberts and Austin Armstrong, you make no mistake about it. They want to bring heat. I think this would be the game to heat them up. Again, hostile environment. You got some guys who can get hands-on footballs in the back end. I'm trying to heat up Connor Wigman, and I'm trying to get him uncomfortable. Look, he looked uncomfortable at home against Texas A&M, or not at Texas A&M. He looked uncomfortable at home against Notre Dame. Try to get him uncomfortable on the road in the swamp, a very hostile place to play that I think is going to be buzzing with all the buzz around DJ Lagway. Like, I think that's still going to be a really strong environment. So those are the keys, at least for me, with Florida on defense. Getting into the pick, this is a really difficult one. I'm going to go Texas A&M, and quite frankly, it's just kind of where I believe both of these programs are going. Like, I think Florida fans probably do agree with me that it doesn't seem like there's a ton of confidence within this Florida program winning these kind of football games. You look at Texas A&M; it's an elite pass rush against a questionable. Kind of all the reasons we picked Miami to beat Florida was, look, it's a really good pass rush going up against an offensive line that has struggled protecting the pass or protecting the passer. I think it's hard to not see Texas A&M really get after them on the defensive side of the football, and I think Texas A&M will be able to do enough on offense to come out with a win. 3.5 points, don't love it. I'll take the 3.5 points with Texas A&M to cover. Don't love it. This is a very difficult pick to make. Going Texas A&M, going to be a really fun one. You're going to learn kind of about both of these teams in a big way over the next couple of days. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. We'll shut it down there. And if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.